So, how you doing, Devin? Are you, so I hear that you are still in, you're still in Berkeley, but you're moving to San Francisco this summer. Whereabouts in San Francisco are you looking to move?
Well, I have some requirements, and if they're not met, I guess we'll just go where we can be. But I
Mhm.
sure would love to be able to play music. So, like an apartment feels like a bit of a non-starter for me, which kind of starts to limit my scope of operation. I think I'm thinking like Sunset, Outer Richmond.
Yeah.
I'd like to find something that's like apart from a main unit, kind of like I have now, or just something with some autonomy, which is like starts kind of blocking out the city in ways. But honestly, we've been talking with some folks in some different art communities, and there's a bunch of alternative housing and warehouses being converted over in Dogpatch.
Dude,
So
Dogpatch is cool these days. Yeah. Last time I was over there, it felt like it was definitely like up and coming.
City of the future, man.
Yeah.
They're really like on that Elon Musk level of like let's make it look futuristic.
Yeah.
Even though everything is still kind of 1995 level.
This is actually one thing that I love about San Francisco is it definitely still has potential. It has
Yeah,
become a museum city and like nothing changes like ever. But
yeah,
there's still pockets of the city that no one who's like a tourist knows about at all, like the dog patch. Like no
right,
tourist has basically ever set foot in the dog patch.
right,
But it's a
right.
super genuinely cool area and it's just like full of like brimming with potential. I'm actually rooting for that because the sunset there is more space, but like, dude, it's so hard to get out there. Like, I'd have a very hard time visiting you if you lived in Sunset because
Yeah,
if I don't have a car, you know.
it's chilly.
But yeah, like Ubering to any place in the dog patch is so easy. Yeah, and it's warm. You're right, it's warm like the East Bay.
Yeah, I'd love to live on that side of the city. I'm sure budget will be a factor. Prices are going back up. Like the pandemic real estate crash is definitely, rental prices are kind of on the way
Mm-hmm.
back up again. Um, can we blame can we blame Trump for that too?
I'm down to blame Trump for everything. Yeah, yeah that's what the Republicans do. They blame Democrats for every
What
dumbass thing. So
of course it's
this is actually
what's
Devin. If I could like jump into my high level like theme of our talk today, it's
we
kind of this, which is that I feel like all of this, maybe like semi dramatic or even like incredibly dramatic stuff is happening with the government and also with the news. There's just a lot going on, like Middle East stuff. I mean,
very
etc. Like wars globally. There's a lot going on, and I feel like for some reason, almost since Trump got elected, no one can muster any real rage. Everyone's just kind of like, I'm so upset, but like I can't do this anymore. Yeah, like that's like a general, like just online. I sense this so much that people are very upset, but like, it's just like this sigh that you feel rather than like this real visceral rage coming at you. It's just like this,
yeah,
oh God, it's still so bad. You know what I mean? Like that's how I feel. And
rage fatigue. We have
yeah,
rage
there's it's definitely rage
fatigue
fatigue. And I also just kind of wonder if it is, yeah, I want to get your take on this because I think it's either rage fatigue
or
or it is
Trump.
everyone just kind of like realizing there is, and we are in the middle of an inevitable kind of like actual tide shift or
Mm,
something like that. And so it's just like, it's not only that you're fatigued, but you realize you can't change the way tides are turning. And so you just kind of like have to like buckle
mm.
down and just kind of sort of go with the flow, not only for like your own like sanity, but also just kind of like, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not even sure if I'm going to spell this out
My
coherently. What do you think?
my initial thought was like when I said rage fatigue, I was thinking, well, it is kind of politics driven, but it's also we've been under the shadow of the 24-hour news cycle
Mhm.
for what? About 10 years, maybe 15 at the outermost edge. I don't know when the official kind of start date because there was a day when they were like, all right, news 24/7, let's get it together. And I think that coupled with early social media algorithms being super super prioritized towards rage, which I think that it seems like they're trending at least more diversely now, where for a time there, it was definitely clear that most social media platforms were capitalizing on people's kind of feelings of disenfranchisement or anger or rage. And so I'm just like, yeah, we have been kind of beset upon on all sides from agitating forces that are also coming from a deeply psychologically informed place. Like we're now in like whatever, like fifth order, marketing, the, paradigm where it's like, we've had psychologists, probably the highest paid psychologists on earth are people that are like in some basement laboratory figuring out how to crack each neuron in your brain open to enjoy a Coke. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, and not just like Coke. Obviously, you're using that like symbolically, but every aspect of our lives. Yeah, exactly. That's a good point.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think exhaustion could definitely. I certainly have an almost, I hate to say it, like mirthsome kind of affect towards like the apocalyptic news, because I'm just like the shift from like news to propaganda is fully complete. Like we live in the dark, we live in the Black Mirror now, where like you have to be a collegiate minded person to even try to get an unbiased news source. You know what I'm saying? Like there's no little hamster feeder of like truth anymore. And maybe there never was, but at least at a certain time there felt like there was. You could trust Walter Cronkite, man.
Well, I have this picture pulled up just because I think it's kind of emblematic of, I don't know. So this is Trump and Ivanka at the Super Bowl right now. And Trump is just such an idiot, like, doing some weird salute rather than like hand over your heart. Like he's so clueless about so many just like basic things, doesn't really know how anything kind of works. But the thing that he has is that he does absolutely just represent America and like our dumbness and like our I don't know, our hedonism and our toughness, narcissism. Like he embodies it so perfectly. And like you just have to admit that at some level, like at his dumbest moments, that's when he's almost like representing us the most. I do want to get into a couple of examples of maybe like things that he's doing really well that only he could do, which is kind of awesome. And my hope.
Whoa. You're gonna do what?
Well, I mean, like, so this is my hope. This is my hope is that, and I actually still know a lot of people who are like mega pro Trump and they're so excited for him. So maybe like inadvertently, I'm kind of soaking in a little bit of their enthusiasm for him. I can talk all day about things that I absolutely hate about Trump, obviously, but for some reason, and then again, this is part of that. Like, man, it's like everything is just like I can't muster rage that effectively. So I may not even try, but yeah, like. He's doing some things that only he could do. And it's like a breath of fresh air. It's like, whoa, thank God. Because like no one else could ever say like the elephant in the room. Let me just pull up one before I just like ramble on like examples. Take a look at this that just happened today. Sorry, I'm just doing like, Twitter shit.
Do you think that there will eventually be Doge Gestapo?
Maybe we should definitely talk about that specifically.
A bunch of like wafy MIT engineers with like Boston engineering, like robot machine gun dogs.
Devin, you're leading me to the place that I do want to get to, I think. But maybe before we get there, this is like this is, man, the second I saw this is supposedly, so like Trump is going to launch an investigation into California's high-speed rail disaster. The thing, we spent $128 billion in the bullet train, and the initial budget was like 13.6 billion or something like this. So, and he's going to investigate that because at that point, and everyone like, has been saying this for years, actually, all this money being just like spent, that's not like, mismanagement. That's like maybe like fraud and maybe criminal, like theft. And it needs to be investigated. And only Trump would do this. Like, no, even like normal Republican would be like, that is an elephant in the room of a bad thing. And I am going to investigate that because
political non-starter. Yeah.
And I appreciate that. Like, I actually genuinely appreciate that about Trump. And like, I would actually like this project
Yeah.
to be like finalized. And it's only gonna be finalized if they genuinely change course. And someone needs to come in and just be like say the obvious thing. None of this is working before this project is gonna be on the right track at all, right?
Boy, yeah, I suppose so. I guess if he follows through on it, it's so interesting to watch him promise to do stuff because
Mhm.
it's so rapid fire. I mean, it's AK-47 level. Like it's like 150 things in the last 2 weeks, and I'm always thinking like, but really, you don't really seem to have the gumption to get anything at all fucking done, my guy.
Yeah, I mean, like that's the brass tacks is that he's spews out like 50 million executive orders, and then it just takes a week or two, and then there's a lawsuit, and then it's like,
Right.
oh, by the way, like, sorry guys, this isn't happening, like says any judge ever, and then he's already moved on to the next thing. And yes, that is exactly how his administration is going to go, but maybe my hope is that kind of like along the way, none of the bad stuff happens, but like maybe some of the obvious good things that should happen will happen.
It's so interesting to me
Because
too.
the good stuff, sorry, like my last point is the good stuff
Yeah.
isn't illegal. The bad stuff is actually illegal, right? So
Yeah,
there are categories here of like illegal shit that is bad and it's not going to happen, and then like non-illegal shit that maybe is good and might happen. They're very drastically separate categories.
yeah. I mean, it's so hard to even imagine how it plays out. It's so casting chicken bones at some level because it's like
Mhm.
the USAID, right? Like famously a pawn for the CIA, right? Like and amongst other things, and like obviously this like wave of good money that goes to good places for good programs, potentially a lot of theft, a lot of coercion, a lot of co-opting of that as a vehicle for more nefarious things. How the fuck would you even know? You know, I'm like, it's because in California we're so propagandized. Everything sounds like it's already an indictment. It's like they're getting rid of it, and you're like, whoa, and then you go, wait, well, hold on, weren't we talking about all this stuff not working for the last like 20 or 30 years? Like, why are we so histrionic about things being dismantled or getting rid of? You know, it's like in a legalistic fashion, like mostly through the law. Like there isn't a Doge Gestapo yet, there isn't a Trump Gestapo yet, you know. And I think you're right, because I'm wondering, I'm like, does it play out where we go, hey, we didn't get into any other wars, we now own Gaza, and it's the Mar-a-Lago of the Mediterranean. We have a high-speed rail. How psycho would that be, Peter? How psycho?
I
4 years.
know.
In 4 years, like world peace, high-speed rails, corruption has ended. You know what I mean? Like it would be an absolute almost believable in this day and age that it could all work out. But I don't know, man.
I know. I actually wish I were a more radical person because I can't like full throatedly support any of this because I am such kind of like a normie lib at the end of the day. But like for example, I read Curtis Yarvin. I read his blog, right? And he appears on podcasts sometimes, and I'll pay attention to him. As soon as Trump said that we're going to take over Gaza, in my inbox dropped a Curtis Yarvin post, and he was like, "Guys, like I've been saying this forever, and here's the thing: like in bizarro world that we've been living in forever, this makes no sense, and this is utterly insane, and I can't believe he said this. But in
Yeah.
normal world, where there's like a massive global superpower that can do whatever it wants, and then there's a pocket of the world that is like has never worked." The global superpower can actually fix this. And historically, in normal world, like Rome and shit, that's what happens. And he didn't spell it out very articulately. It was kind of like a sloppy piece, like most of his pieces are. But like, he's not utterly wrong.
No,
like,
I had
taking morality out of it, he's not utterly wrong in the grand scheme of humanity. The global superpower, if something is fucked up, they go in and like, guys, we're not doing this fucked up shit anymore. Like, y'all are gone. We're moving in. New stories emerging, right? New narrative. global superpowers historically have done that, and that's again taking the morality completely out of this. I don't support the thing or whatever. I don't support anything in the Middle East, by the way, because I don't know enough about it to like have a strong opinion. But there I am with that.
Well, no, I had, I had the shock and awe reaction to that when I first heard it, and then as I do now, I really try to steelman what's happening, just so that I can try to give myself two sides of perspective. If I can't find it in the world, then at least I'm challenging myself to bend both ways, to believe that in some reality this could be an interesting or good or positive idea. And I did that. I was like, I started down the path that you just talked about, where I'm like, yeah, in a certain way, like when daddy's home, the kids usually stay in their room.
Yeah. It actually just sorry to interrupt, but like it just sparked in my brain what Yarvin actually said to make this work. And he said that all of the Gazans who are temporarily, moved to Jordan or wherever, whoever takes them, right? Ireland is kind of like the joke, because Ireland supports Gaza so much and Hamas so much. There's like, yeah, okay, Ireland, you take them then, you take them, which they don't want to, they never would, right? But that's the joke. But while they're temporarily displaced, they all get Trump casino tokens or whatever it is, like Trump Gaza tokens, so that they become overnight super wealthy. That like, because they're actual tokens that mean something monetarily in the Gaza Strip, so that once it's rebuilt, they can come in and like every single Gazan can be a millionaire once they walk back in, right? Something like that. It's actually not a horribly bizarre, stupid idea. Like it's kind of brilliant.
It's crazy when you think about anything logistically in terms of like the way that, here, I'm going to just divert back.
Sorry. I have to make, I think what I just said makes no sense, but like, unless the Yarvin worldview, and his worldview is run everything like a company. So Gaza will be a company. And so it's like you own stock in it. Right. Sure. Like I think he called it a token, but it's like you own stock in the Gaza enterprise. That's how that all makes sense. It's like owning stock in Apple, and you're a million overnight because the stock goes up. That's what that would be. Yeah.
But, this is the problem with Trump, with the way that his kind of symbolic narrative becomes this imaginative worldview, because at the end of the day, just to take like a 30-second diversion back into material reality, that the military situation in the region would never allow you to do anything of the sort, because you've got 3 different proxy wars happening, cold wars, hot wars. You've got tribal entities being co-opted by other superpowers to nefarious ends. And then you've got a terrorist organization that's arguably one of the most well-funded, well-entrenched, well-trained terrorist organizations in the world, the likes of which isn't like ISIS, where it's a huge, proud, Islamic organization that's trying to establish a foothold throughout the world. They're literally just foxholing themselves into every single fucking crevice. And so, like, at the end of the day, yes, sure, you could imaginatively turn it into a place, and then not even to say that the history of Israel of finding a favorable administration and taking a little bit more of what they're 100% sure is their land. It would only take one sympathetic president after the 20-year debacle that would be like Iraq 2 in settling in settling Gaza. Every fucking Dick Cheney gets $1 trillion from their personal Halliburton. You know what I mean? And it's just like, and then the Israelis find a puppet president 20 years from now, and they're like, actually, we'll be taking that. And it's like, and it'll be part and parcel with the history of that place, man. So it's like,
okay, well, just to pull back for a second, because realistically, you're right. If we did try to take over Gaza, it would be
a nightmare.
Oh man, such a nightmare. And it would be 2 minutes into it that all of America would be like, wait, why are we boots on the ground in Gaza? Like, the second an American soldier died, which they totally would, like we would, it would be like, oh my God, what did we do? Maybe. But kind of my question. Shout out to Dane Fitzgerald in the chat, by the way. Dane, let's hang out again. Come to Zach. Let's hang out. Devin, do you know Dane?
Maybe I know Dane. Do I know Dane?
You guys should meet. We should have a little Team Futurism.
Let's have a little
Yeah, so Dane's been on the pod before, I think a couple of times.
Yeah.
So anyway, shout out.
Friendly.
But yeah, just to pull back for a second on the Gaza thing. One thing that I don't get, speaking again about how we live in an age where it's like impossible to get truly upset about anything. Like Trump was Mr. America first, and this was the one thing that like I actually believed him when he said it, and I think that his supporters believed him when he said it. America first, like we're pulling back from the global stage. Yeah, right. And then like the second he gets into office, or maybe even beforehand, he's like, okay, so we're gonna take over Greenland, we're gonna take over the Panama Canal, we are going to make Gaza like, you know, our beachfront
great again.
Yeah, so it's like you are suddenly in like half a second the most expansionist American president I could even comprehend, let alone like imagine. And like America First people aren't upset about this somehow. It's like, okay, so if this is the new agenda, if we're the expansionist power in the world, dude, keep going, man. Like, let's take over England. Like, England is failing as a nation. Like, they
it's
suck
Magaga.
now. Like,
It's make Gaza great again. Make
Magaga,
make Greenland great again.
You know what I'm saying? Like if this is actually his agenda and people aren't upset about it, why not just go further? Like, what are we doing? Like, let's take over Russia. Yeah, I mean, like where's this end?
Do we not know this guy well enough to know that he's diagnosably got ADHD? He's so distracted all the time. It's like the wind blows and this guy's got a new pet issue, man. I swear. If and you never know what's his personal reality? Is does he have some bizarre Snape figure that's like whispering in his ear? So he's like a King Theoden, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Like, how does he? It really seems to me, I think Donald Trump is actually, to your original point, such an interesting representation of the American animal. It's like there's an animalistic humanism in this country that is very instinctual. And like the bully, I think, is a very instinctual role in a weird way, and we're civilizing ourselves, I think, away from the desire to humiliate and dominate other people. But that's our history in this country. Our history is demanding abject, supplicants. You know what isn't it? It's like that was when Trump did the Canada Mexico little tariff like sleight of hand. I was like, well, he didn't even need to do that to Canada, but he just wanted to make him kiss the ring. You know what I mean? And I'm just like, truly, that is, I think, deeply a way that he represents. He's an id. You know, he's drawn to whatever magnetic source is nearest him. You know?
Okay, Devin, I'm gonna, in the interest of keeping this lively, let's do one more tweet that I encountered this week.
Let's see it.
Let's get your hot takes on, because might as well. We're here.
Don't feed the bear.
Okay, so this is the Riley Gaines, the swimmer, who did a competition with a male athlete, right?
What are you doing, man?
Oh man, well, just for fun, we're just dipping our toes in. It's
not
like anyone's watching.
Nobody is watching this. Thank the Lord.
No, we got a couple of watchers, and God bless them. And here we go, diving into the
Palestine. Might as well do transgender athlete, dude. What else? What else, man?
Okay, so I do have a hot take about this. So this is Riley Gaines, the swimmer, right? She did like the whole round. She talked to Bill Maher. She was on like, Fox News a million times. She became kind of like a micro celebrity, and she's huge on Twitter. When she competed against I forget the male athlete's name, but male athlete swimming as a transgender woman. And so now Trump comes in and he signs this document so that trans women can no longer participate in women's sports. And so there's this picture on Twitter of him signing this document surrounded by young girls, and they're all like smiling and super stoked. And Riley Gaines tweeted, I think I may post this photo once a week for the next 4 years to remind the Democrats what a leader who fights for women's rights looks like. And like, no joke, optics wise, this is very bad for Democrats, very good for Republicans. And I can say that pretty confidently just by like taking a glance at the polling numbers. What is it, like 80% of Americans do not want trans women in women's sports? This is like not a hard issue. And this is my hot take on this, Devin, is that I think the Democrats for the next, I don't know, like 50 years should just take any issue, doesn't matter what it is, and like don't do like the moral high ground thing, and don't even pretend like you know like the nuance of any issue, because so many issues are just crazily complex, right? Like don't do any of that calculation. Just be like, oh, 75% of Americans want this, we're gonna own it. Right?
It's crazy. It's crazy that we do a podcast together, but it makes so much sense to me because I've literally been carefully stirring the same pot of stew for weeks now, because I'm like, you know, in the aftermath of an election where you're forced to just kind of ask questions about the platform that unfortunately you most closely identify with, which is, you know, liberalism, Democrats, you know, writ large. Like I'd consider myself a liberal person. And man, it's like one of the things as I expose myself to Republican news sources and kind of right of center news sources, they're like, we just don't care about this stuff. They're like, we don't really understand why a part of the national conversation is talking about the representation of a very, very small amount of people. And I'm like, the Democratic Party needs to find some jib to cut, or you know, some line to cut here, because the party's kind of idealistic basis is recognizing civil rights, recognizing kind of trying to just see people for who they are and give them the protections that they deserve, and in some degree the social status that they deserve. That one's, I think, a little bit more complicated, and the party should kind of maybe take it or leave it on certain issues with that. But I've been thinking the same thing, because I'm thinking like, wow, we talk so much about trans folks in the news, both Republican and Democrat, and they represent such a small portion of the population. Does that mean that we shouldn't be talking about it or we shouldn't be concerned about it? No, it doesn't mean that. But if there's two parties and they have to represent the majority of people, then they have to actually really only focus on things that affect the majority of people. And so it does come down to a demographic problem where I wish that we lived in a maybe a more technologically advanced society where we could vote in a more simplistic and compartmentalized way. But right now we're still painting broad strokes with these parties. We have a two-party system, and both parties have to focus on things that are majoritarian in nature, pretty much exclusively. And and liberalism and Democrats have kind of gotten dragged into the weeds on this identity stuff over the last.
Yeah, I mean, it would be a harder argument to make if this were 1960, right? And there were obvious areas where like, hey, there's a swath of people that are not getting like their rights, right? Yeah, that would be that. I mean, then, you know, let's have all those morality arguments, but we don't live in that world anymore.
Folks, have always been a statistically significant population in the United States. They've never been a statistically insignificant population ever in the entire history of the place. So, and even in the same framework, it does make sense to focus on civil rights for Black folks and protections for Black folks, because they make up a sizable percentage of the population. And I'm not saying it, and that does lead you down the slippery slope where it's like, well, do we not give a fuck about people who are, you know, marginalized in smaller increments or in more specialized ways? No, we should always have protections under the law, and people should be nice to everybody. Unfortunately, we still live in a brutalist world and in a bit of a brutalist society that's set on expert mode, and a lot of people are just trying to survive, and a lot of people just aren't nice. And it's what you got to sit with, man. I mean, you know, the law does protect you.
I mean, for like, I feel like if you were going to be a political analyst, the thing that you would want to just like look at in broad strokes is, okay, are we entering an age where society needs a mommy or are we entering a stage where society needs and wants a daddy? And like all the signs were just pointing to, we were sick of mommy mode after 2020. We are sick of that shit. We want like daddy to come back, right? This is like your talking point, actually, that I'm stealing. I think that you've said this exact thing before, but I think this is actually true, just because people are so sick of the moralizing mom. Like we just are. And I like even have a mode that's kind of like that. So I'm sympathetic to it, but just society is just like so tired of that. So yeah.
So I had this reflection, you know, as I often look through this kind of lens of masculinity in my life and in society. I was like, hey, you know, like it or not, the world is still run by tough guys. And even in female form, it's a tough guy mentality that owns and runs the world, from the third world all the way up to the most developed countries, with exceptions here and there at the margins. But it's a tough guy mentality, and it's mostly men that are tough, you know, presenting or whatever. That's how they fashion themselves to be. And like, we're just not, I think we've been probing utopianism over the last 10 years, and we've found
probing utopianism. All right.
We have. I think because a lot of these like third and fourth order kind of identity dynamics are like really based on an assumptive base that we live in a safe world. You know, and it's like, damn it, I think we probed utopianism, and it came and it came out a little gooey in the middle. Maybe it looked kind of done on top, but it just ain't done yet. And unfortunately,
okay, like my one point here, because I agree with all this, but like I want to pivot to the next topic, but maybe like the bow that I'll put on it just a little bit is that I do think that we shouldn't, as Americans, want any sort of like, let's tweak every single last dial on the law to make it perfect for everybody. We should just like give up on that project and just be like, let's get it good enough so that like, yeah, some people are going to fail. Some people are going to be awesome. Like, this is America. And like, our thing is that like, you try really hard, you work really hard, and you make it. And some people still fail. Like, we don't need to tweak every single last dial. Like, that's not what we're here for. That's what Europe is for, to like make it all cozy and comfortable for their citizens. We've never pretended to want that, and we don't want that.
This is American exceptionalism 3.0, dude. I love this.
And maybe like in the perfect world, like a couple of decades from now, when the population collapses so hard in Europe, like all the softies can move there anyway, and maybe I'll be one of them, you know? So there we go. But okay, I want to do a hard pivot, Devin, because we are a futurist podcast. We got to hit one tech topic today.
Turn the wheel.
Okay, so say goodbye to Riley Gaines. We're pivoting to when this comes up. So okay, so did you follow the DeepSeek thing at all?
I did, yeah.
Okay, so the latest news, this is the story where DeepSeek in China said that like for a fraction of the cost, for a fraction of the computing power, they are able to get better results than ChatGPT. And this story has just recently started to unravel. I haven't looked into this terribly much, but this was something that just immediately I saw this story about DeepSeek, and I was gut reaction, not like this is no like pro-American vibe on my part, just like my gut reaction, I think, was just like, there's no way this is true. There's just no way. Just like knowing about how like work
and believing Chinese media now. That's what we're doing. We're at a level where we're just believing the Chinese and whatever they fucking choose to say. We never do that. They're always lying. It's like anything that comes out of a state media source in China is like 99% for sure going to be fucking false, man. You can't trust those motherfuckers for anything.
It's almost, I mean, I think that the story is still very much unfolding, but man, for the people who just, one, for the stock market that tanked on the day when this news happened, even that was kind of silly. And it kind of shows like even like the stock market needs to have more skepticism about like one news story.
Please.
You know what I mean? It's just kind of like,
please.
I don't know, like, come on, like gods at the stock market. I know it just goes on vibes. It's a vibe machine.
No, and it was like, it was right away that anybody that was an expert was like, that's impossible. You know, they were like, with what we all understand to be currently true, that's just not possible. And I think honestly, like the likelihood that like an insane repressive government is going to generate like genuine insight and creativity is low. You
Mhm.
know, like there's a reason why there's so much insight and creativity that blossoms in the United States. I mean, we have in some degrees for certain individuals a repressive government, but generally we have a regime that is encouraging of a lot of the things that are required for deeply creative and insightful inventions and discoveries to happen. And in
Mhm.
communist China, I think it's a bit of a far stretch for me, and maybe that's like a spiritual belief or something. But like, yeah, I don't know. On many levels, I like on vibe check, I was like, nah. Yeah,
Yeah, I think that just in general, there needs to be more education about what underlies something like ChatGPT, like that technology,
sure, yeah,
any sort of AI, because you do need like physical chips, like these GPUs that were effectively like created for like gamers. I mean, like the reason that we have so many GPUs is because all like a bunch of teenage boys in America like love gaming, and so we had to build out more and more of these systems, and
yeah,
the GPUs that we built for gaming just happened to work for AI, right? But like
right.
these chips that we built for AI, even at the or built for gaming, even at the highest level, like the best ones, none of them were made for AI. Like to this
Mm,
day, like that we're currently developing some that will be kind of like better for AI, and like tailored to it and not just like gaming. But like even like right now, we don't have enough of these chips, right? And like China, Biden made it so that China can't even get the best level chips. And there's some story that Nvidia might have been like feeding them some of the best ones, but the breakthroughs that are going to happen are going to be when we do get those next level chips that are made specifically for AI. That, according to at least Peter Zion, I haven't looked into it too much, but he says that like 2030 thereabouts, they're going to like really come to market. I bet because of the demand, they'll probably be sooner than that. But these things are like insanely hard to make, right? So maybe like 2030-ish, like we're going to ramp up to the next level. But it's interesting how no one talks about the hardware component of this
mm.
hardly at all ever. I mean, like Sam Altman never does. And it seems like maybe it's like disadvantageous to his business model, like to talk about like that nuts and bolts aspect here. But yeah, like there's forget like programmers. There's another layer to this that China just like they can't really compete with us on it, at least not right now.
Let me ask you this, because we've seen this insane explosion in AI over the last, I'd say, 2 years.
Mhm.
Really, I mean, the last 2 years almost feels like the entire lifespan of the iPhone in terms of how quickly it's come from Siri level chatbot to like fully composed and, kind of. When do you think we reach that tipping point where we don't have to ask those questions about design anymore and it begins designing itself more intelligently? I feel like, Peter, we might be really close
I
to that.
think so too. I think that we're very close to it.
Really, and I think it's going to change everything in the blink of an eye. I had this
Hmm.
I was thinking about that last night, and just how, like, for teeth, we don't know how to grow and implant a tooth because we don't really understand how to do surgery on nerves. And I'm like, man, that just seems like something that once a computer is fully trained to understand the human body in like a complete and holistic way. I mean, we're not that far from that computational power. Is any insight like that going to be hidden to it?
Yeah,
It's
man. You know what's so interesting? Because ever since I was in high school, I was on debate the debate team,
Mhm.
and there was this technology that we would talk about, even like way back then. I don't know why, but like it was a thing, like nanobots.
Mm,
And the idea that you can just take a clump of dirt from your backyard and turn it into a gold watch or turn it into anything that you want.
mhm.
That's the sort of technology we could kind of unlock here. I mean, nanobots also in terms of like medical nanobots that you just like
Oh,
swallow one and then you never have to go to the doctor ever again. Your cells never age because it just like fixes every thing as it crops up. Uh, we are like, this isn't just kind of like, oh, this is a new gadget. Like this is changing the whole entire makeup of what we know life to be, right? I mean, like if you
yeah.
could have it's you need two things, Devin. This is it. This is two things that we need to make. Other shit too. We gotta go to Mars and time travel. Why not? But the two things that you need like some sort of a nanobot in your body to fix aging, so you just don't age.
Yeah.
Your cells just don't age. Uh, And then you need that like device that is just like it sits in your kitchen, and if you want something, it just makes it. Anything that you want in the world, it just makes it out of thin
You're,
air. Like
you're such a transhumanist, man. You're like stuck on Jetsons mode.
but like we wouldn't need any company ever effectively,
I know
right?
that'll never happen.
No, I
No,
mean it might. Like this
I
this
think it
this is the
might.
kind of thing that like we might unlock this kind of magic.
It's so
It isn't
interesting.
just like bits and numbers, but it is like physical reality is altered because we're able to manipulate, I don't know, cells and shit.
Well, and as far as we've come so far, it's really been on our own locomotion, right? Like we're using AI, we're still humans using AI to try to find insights. I mean, I really think that
Yeah.
within the next decade, a computer will be made that can ask and answer successive series of questions in a way that is computationally impossible for the human mind. Like it won't anymore be a human mind driving questions through an AI. It'll be a single question that'll actually get an answer. Do you know what I mean? It's not gonna. I think we'll stop having this sense of.
We'll have different questions too, right? I mean,
Yeah, say it again.
we'll have different questions too.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, and I think it'll be less like the creative pursuit of searching for an answer, and it'll be more like things are just done. And there's a whole swath of life that just doesn't need to be attended to anymore, which would be insane. I mean, even you as a married guy, me as someone in a long-term relationship, you know what it feels like to just take a section of your life and be like, that's done. Like I don't need to worry about that anymore, and how much kind of like top line creativity and headspace it gives you to not be thinking about who you want to talk to every time you walk into a room. You know what I mean? I think AI is gonna get to that point where like so many of these kind of bureaucratic questions in human life are more or less resolved.
Like jury duty, right? I mean, there's a lot of aspects of life that are effectively jury duty. And I was like, we don't need to do this anymore, guys. Like jury
There's
duty is already
we don't need to
stupid.
do. We don't. But here's maybe a pivot for me is that it sure does seem like we're coming back into a fetish mode with wealthy people and billionaires and like it's so I've never felt closer to the reality that rich people could be living in some cloud city.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely.
I'm just
Yeah.
like, wow, we're really lauding, wealth in a way that we were a little ashamed at least to do before. And like, if the future is truly held in the hands of incel nerds, will they disperse it fairly?
We will know that we're there, Devin, once Elon Musk is no longer so like pudgy and gross looking.
Yeah, he just immediately becomes like looks like
when he's handsome.
any fuck about himself.
When he gets a module for like a less awkward personality.
Wow, he like it's just charisma.
Yeah, yeah.
He's like, yeah, he's no longer a cringe lord. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how he made it so far into his adult life, still kind of like presenting as like a 19-year-old incel.
It's very strange, isn't it? I know he's one of the most like curious
experience. Like, how did you end up like this?
There's something about, and you've highlighted this before to me. You said that I like these people for some reason, but like he's like overly confident in his opinions, and he's also a risk taker, like galore.
Yeah,
and that combo really takes people places.
Oh yeah,
especially and, like I've seen this in my own life with myself, in that like I never level up in any way ever unless I take a risk. Yeah, and I'm like kind of a risk averse person. Like when I moved to San Francisco, that was like a big risk. And I even, man, like the second, like 2 days after I signed my lease for my apartment in San Francisco, this was years ago, but I lost my job. And it was like a very like, holy shit, how am I going to pay my new San Francisco rent with no job? I mean, it was very dramatic, but you lean into that thing and you're just kind of like, we're going to go for this. That's when you do level up in life, right? And imagine me not being a risk averse person, but being like excited about taking risks, which I'm not. But if I were, I could just imagine my life being so much more
I
like
reflect on it every
Elon
day as
Musky, right?
a musician and as an artist, that the actual gap between me and success is just confidence. It's
Mhm.
just the confidence to, yeah, speak with authority and take what you need. And as a good boy and a good liberal, and someone that wants to be nice and be equitable, I think I've been an overly humble person most of my life, and
I
not
think so
really.
too, Devin. I think so too.
Oh, thank you.
Well,
And not.
you know what's interesting about you being a musician is that like I used to want to be a musician, and I remember like some of the best things I've ever done were play music in front of a live audience
Yeah.
because I did it, a couple of times. A handful of times was enough for me to realize, oh, this is not my calling. And imagine if I had like never played those live performances, I might still be in my bedroom every night, like playing my guitar, being like, I'm gonna make it, bro. But like I know that I don't feed off the crowd enough. Like I don't really care, and like I feel so, and I don't want more of that. I want less of it when I do it. So, yeah. So like having done that, which was very risky for me, it was very scary to do, but I'm glad I did it.
You're
And
very
then like
good
it
songwriter.
taught me that like I don't need to do that anymore. So yeah, it's good.
Yeah, it's I wish I could lay that sword down, my friend.
Yeah, I'm still writing the great American novels, Evan. That's what I'm still up to. So
Yeah, and I'm getting a hit record this year, come hell or high water, man. I believe in both of us extremely fully. The thing is, uh, a drop of water, a drop of water every hour for 1,000 years. You know what I'm saying?
mhm.
It's making its way through that stone. And I think you and I have been so consistently dropping our little droplet down. We're very diligent little workers, even if we haven't exposed enough of it to the world for them to understand that it's good stuff yet. You know what I'm
We'll
saying?
have to do another art talk, given like the changing of the culture. Perry was just telling me today that she read an article someplace. She's going to send it to me, but she never did, about how basically no one reads anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've seen these articles too, but I guess it was like kind of like drastic about like every year fewer and fewer people read ever, like literally ever. And I'm a novelist, right? Or I write shit.
Right.
Like, what does that mean for me? Where does this go? And we need to have like a more of a long-winded conversation about that. But one thing that
God,
Perry said that
feed
was so
you
so
gotta
interesting.
feed at least one of your short stories into an image generator.
Oh, true. I've never done that. Yeah, you're right. I should.
He's so cool, man. I bet you your shit would really pop.
That's a good point, Devin. I've never done that. I'll have to do it. I'll have to
Yes.
do it. Very good. I have done things where just for like practical reasons, I have to test it. I've given like ChatGPT like 3 of my stories,
Mm-hmm.
and I've said, "Tell me which one is the best and why." And the analysis is really fascinating. Like it's
Really?
really actually pretty interesting. Yeah, it can actually give you some like really great feedback.
Wow. Oh my God. I'm terrified of doing that.
Well, you should, yeah. You should do it with some song lyrics. Just like
I would
plop in some
never.
song.
I'm
Yeah.
so protective of songwriting. I don't even expose it to the
But like
light.
you can't get mad because it's not a person. It's just like a algorithm. So you can't like if I were to be like Devin, dude, like that line, you know what I mean? You'd be like, okay, thanks, Pete, great advice, but also just like fuck you, you know what I mean? Like,
I, I
you don't have to feel that with an AI.
I think unfortunately, like, I'm an actor in the truest sense, that
Mm,
like I don't really want to reflect upon it too much. I just want to trust that it comes from something
mm.
greater than me, and that I can be a good, quick way for it to find its way into reality. That's the only, I've learned enough in my life to know that I don't want to know much more.
I like that. Yeah, I'm actually exactly the same way.
I'm a,
And that like when I know something is good that I've written, no one can convince me otherwise.
mm,
And to this moment sitting here, I'm like, I was very right about that.
yes,
Looking back on myself, something I wrote 20 years ago, I might think differently, but I might be like, dude, that sucks. But the things I was very confident in, like, this was great. Like, I still
yeah.
that's my delusion
You
where it
just
comes
gotta
out.
bring the child into the world, and just that's the only job. Like, the midwife doesn't do anything else. She doesn't like
Mm.
live with the family. She's not there for that long afterwards. She doesn't comment on the appearance of the child as it emerges. You feel me? She's like, I'm gonna try to help you get this thing out. Once it's out, we'll check in a little bit. then you're good to go. You know what I mean? You just got to bring that baby out and like put it where it goes. That's the hard part.
So we're recording this during the football game, the Super Bowl thing, by the way. I need to bounce in a sec, but I just might note it just in remiss. Thank you to everyone who's watching this live stream rather than the Super Bowl. God bless you. Yeah, I think that football is actually like desperately immoral, and
Did you
stop immediately as a thing, just like what it does to people's brains, like high school teenage boys' brains should not be sacrificed for this like very like low-key boring game. That's my hot take. But apparently the Eagles are up 24-0, and I don't even know who that is.
Let's go Birds! Let's go Birds!
there you go. If you're watching this and you want your football update, there you go.
Do you really truly believe that in the Venn diagram of our listeners and sports fans that there is any overlap?
There's gonna be very little.
Especially Eagles fans. No way. I mean, maybe if they're tuning in for my dumb ass. Go Birds!
Yeah, I'm here for like tennis and a little teeny bit of basketball and a little teeny bit of soccer. That's what I'm here for. But yeah, football and baseball.
Yeah, I'll watch sports if there's a bunch of other people that are excited about it. I can't.
Yeah, me too. It's fun going to like a basketball game and like feeding off the energy. Like people get so into it. It is actually kind of fun. Yeah.
Of course.
Hockey too, because the players fight and shit. It's kind of great.
Oh, I've been seeing that a lot more lately. I'm like, wow, they really do just let this is actually part of the game. Is that
have you been to a live hockey game?
Yes, I have been to a live hockey game.
I've only been to a couple, like up in Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, they brawl like it's crazy, and you see way more of it live than you do on the TV. It's nuts. It's crazy.
It's NASCAR for the crashes, man.
Oh yeah. It's. Hey man, I'd go to like a Kings game with you someday.
Yeah, man, I go watch the boys scrap it out.
Dude, come to Sacramento. You got Dane. I'm not sure if we're still watching the live stream here, but yeah, come hang out with me and Dane, and maybe we'll do like do a pod together.
Oh, we got to, man. We gotta
when the weather gets like slightly warmer. It's still kind of cold.
We gotta start doing one of those cool like multi-friend podcasts where it's like 4 guys in the room and it's like you know what I'm saying? Like we gotta assemble Captain Planet at some point.
We should. Yeah. Way early on in this podcast, I did one with like 4 people in the room, and I think you had to do it a couple of times for it to work, because it was very like the I don't know, the feng shui was not happening. But
if we
do, what you got here? Hey,
Zoom L8 mixer, perfect for podcasting, my friend. Shout out.
Damn nice. I don't even know what that is, but okay, I gotta wrap it up in a minute. But do you have any last minute topics you want to hit?
Oh, geez, man, really? Anything other than the run of the mill absurdity? No.
David Lynch died, but you don't like David Lynch, so we can't talk about that.
I was a big fan of his thoughts on creativity and his general.
Oh yeah, dude.
And never enjoyed even a minute of his work. So
I will say,
goes to show.
Like maybe go back and revisit some of that shit, because I've been a huge David Lynch fan ever since I watched Twin Peaks, but like some of his movies I was very iffy on. I still do not like Blue Velvet, like does nothing for me. But I recently went back and I watched like a couple of days ago Mulholland Drive.
Mm-hmm.
Actually a really good movie. And I remember when I first watched it, I was kind of not sold on it. But when I watched it again, like with hindsight, knowing what he does, who he is, and his aesthetic, and then also just like I'm older now, I know more about like cinema and shit.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, that movie, it is like a work of art, like, and it is a gem. And it's the kind of thing where like, I mean, I could ramble about it more than I need to, but just he does like the perfect thing with the perfect person in the perfect. It's like he's an artist, like he is a painter with a film like that, right? And it doesn't even matter what the story is about. Like I'll epitomize it like this. I have this thing with novels where if you take a novel and you open it up to a random page and read a random paragraph, you'll know if it's a good book.
Mm-hmm.
You'll just know. And you can do that with only a couple of, like, you can't, like, most books you pick up at a bookstore like suck. They do not pass this test. But if you pick up a great novel you will just do that. You don't even need to know who the author is, and you'll be like, oh, this is a great book by like any random paragraph. David Lynch is like that, where you can go to any random scene and just like play a scene and like, oh, there's so much, there's depth here. There's a lot happening. Even though it's like a very simple thing, there's so much meaning and depth and like, I don't know, orientation to broader shit. So yeah, right. He passed the test for me.
You're right, because as a young person, I think I was more myopic on the things I liked, and definitely in my years now, I am so much more appreciative of like creative decisions rather than maybe creative decisions that are in my lane of enjoyment. Like I really do just get enjoyment from people making strong creative choices now.
Ooh, me too. Good. Damn, well said. Yeah. I know what you mean. That's like my favorite Jordan Peterson line.
Tell what's your favorite Jordan Peterson line?
He's got this line. It was like years ago before it became like overly controversial. He had this line in a like a presentation he was giving that you need to take one challenging work of art and put it in your home. Something that you look at and it challenges you and it stares back at you and you fight with it. Not like an easy work of art. Yeah.
You've got to let it press on you. You've got to let it inform your decisions about a life that isn't going to be quite as easy as you thought it might be.
That's pretty good. But that's like making a hard, like an artist making a hard choice, like a hard aesthetic choice. That's like you in your own life doing that with a painting or any work of art, maybe a novel or something, taking it into your life and like having it challenge you.
Yeah, I enjoy just the transgressiveness of things now. Because you get to a certain age and you realize how easy it is to just shunt off into something that's kind of your lane, and how difficult it actually is to cut against the grain of anything at all after you're like 15.
Yeah. True. All right, dude. Well, hey, I'm in the middle of making focaccia. I got my dough over there like rising, so I gotta go I gotta go check on my dough. And dude, then
bring the baby on the pod next time.
She's at a birthday party right now, and I guess it's chaos. Yeah,
no,
the wife just
baby.
Harry just texted me that a picture of her like in her. Oh, you mean like focaccia baby? I thought you mean
that's
my
right.
Real baby.
Yes.
Oh man, do you want to see it?
Bring her forth, dude.
Let me take a look at it. Let me see if it's presentation worthy. Let's see.
Okay, yeah, come on. If anybody's here still, this is your Super Bowl. This is the payoff. This is the payoff you've been waiting all day for.
Okay, so guys, dude, the dough rose. You know that like that thing where like, is it gonna rise or gonna sit there and just like look gross? Okay, look at this. I don't know if you can see it. Oh. So this little guy, it was like a little teeny thing of dough, and it like blew up. Are you still there, Devin? Did my focaccia dough like scare you off? Might have. Shit, Devin. Okay. All right, we're gonna wrap it up there, folks. Till next time. Yeah, this is Team Futurism. I'm gonna go make some focaccia.